Okay, that even surprised me, yet I'm the one in control of it. Hello, friends. We have sort of an emergency session. Tim Kirby Russia Hardcore with you today. We're going to be discussing where the money is going in terms of this Ukrainian conflict. I got a rather hefty donation yesterday from one of you, so thank you, guys. I really appreciate that, and thus we have a topic for today that I think you'll find interesting. And speaking of today, as you can see, judging by the lower quality of video, this is a rare daytime live stream, and the good old, so let's just say studio here at Fort Kirby is not very well designed for the daytime, so forgive the sort of cloudiness of the imagery. But then again, from what I understand, most of you listen to these podcasts, and in fact, I have a listener here, friend who's trying to develop more the verbal audio side of these podcasts. So we'll see how that turns out. So maybe the video won't even matter in the future. Anyways, our topic for today, our donation-based topic, and remember, if you check out my Boosty there and you send a donation, I will definitely do a topic for you. So the topic for today is, where is the money going? Because recently on Tsargrad TV, the let's just say Christian conservative Russian news source, they relayed or broke the story that it looks like most of the forces in Palestine are using NATO-based weapons, which is very interesting. And they recorded that famous Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene said that essentially for the Palestinians who are sort of rising up right now, for them to have so much NATO equipment, they either had to get the equipment from Afghanistan that was left behind, or from Ukraine that was sold off, or maybe a combination of both, which is very interesting. And I've taken a look at some of the videos, and it definitely seems that the Palestinians are not just armed with the typical remnants of, let's just say, the Cold War. This isn't like, your 1974 issued AK rifle in everyone's hands. This is something very different and very modern. In fact, there's a pretty famous video, which I can't show you today, as we're in emergency mode, that sort of shows a lot of the equipment that they all have. And it's all the sort of brand new, no scars on it, pristine NATO stuff that came from somewhere. And although I might be biased, and of course I think the Taliban probably does want to make money, I'm not quite sure if this all came from Afghanistan. I think it's probably more Ukraine. And of course we're going to cover other elements of where the money's going, but this is sort of the big one for today. We'll get to the other ones soon. And also, if you have a question, you can use the raise your hand function, but I'd like to talk about that at the end. And if you write a comment basically anywhere on Tim Kirby Russia Hardcore, those comments all appear in what I call the chat, and I will see them at some point. So, anyways, why do I think it's not the Afghans? Because we have to remember that Afghanistan is vastly less organized than a lot of countries are. The Taliban is not exactly like your typical government. Things there are a lot more local, a lot more clannish, and although they do have an overarching government, I'll put it this way. One, I think they want to keep a lot of that stuff for themselves, because their opportunity to get more might be far in the future. And two, there's the question of sort of organization of all this, and Afghanistan under the Taliban is going to be a lot more, let's just say, local governance than, say, the Kiev regime, which is extremely top-down. You know what I mean? So I think that whether it's a combination or exclusively Kiev, regardless, I think it has to be coming more from the Kiev side. And again, it sort of begs the question of where are tax dollars going? Because, a lot of the... there's sort of two flavors of modern-day Republican. You have your Trump Republican, and then you have what I usually like to call the Ted Cruz Republicans, although Ted Cruz is kind of fading off into obscurity now. I don't know, the mainstream Republicans, the Republicans who vote for all the wars, that kind, and that other kind of Republican, the non-Trump kind, they really, really super mega ultra love Israel. And I hope that at least, well, probably the One America News Network will put this in the proper context. I can only hope that Fox News would do the same thing, that essentially, fighting this whole Ukraine shenanigans has ultimately led to their precious, Israel project being put in grave danger. So I hope this could be sort of a waking up moment for that other portion of the Republican universe. Unfortunately, though, I think a lot of them aren't going to be paying attention, but it would be really, really nice if they would. It'd be amazing. Anyways, so that's kind of issue number one of where the money is going, as many taxpayers might be asking. Number two was that we've seen recently that when Zelensky was in, I believe, New York to deal with some UN-related issues, his wife reportedly blew a ton of money on diamonds, like some sort of crazy amount of money. The problem is it kind of goes into the rumor and speculation amount. But nonetheless, during a time of war when we can pretty much confirm that over 500,000 people are dead, a significant portion of the population has been forced to leave the country. Things are not in good condition. She could have bought anywhere from hundreds of thousands of dollars, even into the millions of dollars worth of diamonds. About sort of where the money for all this is going, that one is pretty blunt. Pretty confirmed, even by the mainstream media, which kind of is another signal that the mainstream media is kind of turning on Zelensky, because those kind of stories could easily be either ignored or deemed Russian propaganda, or the woman, I guess it was maybe at Tiffany's, who was like the employee who sort of revealed this to the press. They could have obviously just been like, she's a Russian agent. Tamisha Jackson there, who works at this company, she's obviously part of the Kremlin machine. So they could have done that, but they didn't. The third point that I wanted to make about where the money's going. Now, this one is maybe the weakest, because I'll tell you what, making fake documents that says someone owns something is kind of easy. Like, if I wanted to put your name on like a PDF that makes it look like you own an apartment near the Kremlin, as some sort of like conspiracy, I could easily do that. It's just sort of a matter of Photoshop and saving the files in low quality. The lower the quality, the more that sort of JPEG jitter there is, and that's nice. That's nice when you try to make fake documents. So someone who could do that themselves, we should take this with a grain of salt. But another place that supposedly, this is definitely one that needs more of the word supposedly. Supposedly, Zelensky himself has quite the real estate portfolio now. Much in the same way that it's kind of frustrating how a lot of there's a rule, again, this is also a rumor. Supposedly the Clintons had sort of a net value of something like $50,000 when they kind of went to Washington as a married couple. And they have a lot more now. So in that kind of sense, although Zelensky was never poor as a very successful actor, comedian in a sort of smaller market country, he was definitely not, looking for food on the street, but he was nowhere near as rich as to have supposedly these multiple houses, especially in Germany. I've always found that weird. Why buy in Germany specifically? That's a very odd choice of all the places to have something. We hear repeated about Zelensky, the whole concept of like the Miami mansion. And although that's a nice image because Miami's kind of glamorous and it's full of palm trees and it's the exact sort of, I guess, opposite in your mind of what a war zone is. The only documentation I've really seen has all come from like sort of Central Europe. But again, it could be fake because that stuff's really easy to fake. All you need to do is speak proper German and know how to use Photoshop, and you could make you could put Zelensky's name on anything. But it's something to take into account because the money's going somewhere. Of our issues of where the money's going, so we've covered weapons that have been sold to the Palestinians and probably some other interesting characters. Zelensky's wife and the diamonds. We have Zelensky's real estate portfolio. Number 4 of where the money's going are the kickbacks to the Democrats. The whole Biden Burisma thing. Obviously, that took place way before the start of the war, but it's just an example of how you can sort of send money somewhere, especially some sort of governmental aid money, and then get that money as a good old kickback, especially via campaign contributions and investments and so forth. So you blow. Again, this isn't connected to Burisma, it's just an example. blow $100 billion of American money. Somehow 10 or 20 billion of those dollars can come back into some sort of private dealings, right? It's essentially a big kickback scam. And that's one of the problems we have with this whole thing of lobbying being legalized, this whole campaign financing and having very few mechanisms to control it. Because essentially the whole campaign financing from all these donors, which include foreign donors, it essentially is almost like a Boosty or Patreon platform for Washington politicians, because essentially anyone who just wants to buy their favor or make them perform a live stream can just make a donation to them, and there's a good chance that they'll do it. So even before Patreon or Boosty came into existence, that system was set up for Washington's politicians, which is not a good. It's not good, guys. And I know that there's this expression, campaign finance reform, and maybe that's been played out. We've heard about that expression for, I don't know, 15 years or whatever. But it would really, 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 really super help the United States if we had something like that. If there was some sort of means to regulate, control this Patreon platform for our politicians there. That would be amazing. But, of course, one thing, and again, this is also one of the things where it's a little bit more rumored, besides the Burisma scandal, which has been completely exposed, completely analyzed and worked out by various different experts who are more expert than I will ever be about how such financial things work. That's pretty much confirmed. Other stuff here, we're going to have to put it under the supposedly umbrella because we don't know what every campaign contribution that comes from Ukraine goes to. Maybe some of them are legit, maybe some of them aren't, and so we don't know for sure. So anyways, that was point number 4. Here we go. We're going to go into... Wow, there's actually a lot of people watching, which is crazy. I thought no one would watch because it's daytime and everything is grayed out. But anyways, let's see. Are there any questions here? No, just people sort of posting other stuff. That's okay. If you want to write a question, write it on Tim Kirby Russia Hardcore anywhere. Comment under anything. It'll come here within a few minutes. If you use the raise your hand function, I can bring you on the program pending your microphone works. Just remember to unmute yourself. That's a huge problem that we always have. Point number 5 of where the money is going. This was sort of expressed by Colonel Douglas McGregor, so we're going to be using sort of his word from his sources on this one, is paying essentially soldiers' salaries who are already dead. So essentially, the money comes from Washington. It's distributed to pay for all the government functions of Ukraine, including the military. But, if you don't register guys as dead, they keep getting the money. Who takes the money? Perhaps some sort of officer who's related to it, their commanding officer, perhaps someone higher up the chain. But essentially, it looks like, again, according to Colonel McGregor, there's quite the cash cow of paying people who are already dead for their military service. And again, this also then relates into how it's nice that the mainstream media keeps the casualty numbers nice and low and nice and fake, because it, I would say, more incidentally supports this type of sort of corruption scam, because then you kind of have maybe 200 or 300,000 people who unfortunately are very, very, very sadly, well, except for the guys in the private battalions. Those guys deserved it. But the grunts, the draftees, the common infantrymen, they definitely didn't deserve such a ill fate. So, yeah. But unfortunately, their deaths are being supposedly exploited as part of a mass corruption scandal. So their lives were wasted on this pointless endeavor, and now their afterlife is being exploited. So that's double sad. Very, very double sad. Okay. And what I wanted to get into next is point number 6, and my sort of last point about where the money is going, is we get into the whole biolab, organ harvesting, child trafficking, the sort of background nightmare scenario that is connected to the war, the horrors of which you just heard described in the interview I just posted with Mike Jones, which we recorded yesterday, and I actually published it yesterday, which is awesome. That's a rare thing when I actually publish the videos the day I record them. But Mike Jones gets into a lot of the discussions of he discusses what he sees with me. I'm losing the English language here. Hold on. Mike Jones describes for all of us what he heard and saw in the front lines, and there is a lot of stories of some absolute, nightmare level human exploitation going on, and of course, without our precious U.S. taxpayer dollars, none of that would, well, not none of it. It would be much, much smaller and probably already be sort of defunded, as it were, if it weren't for our U.S. taxpayer dollars there. So, if we take his word there at face value, which I do because I know the guy, it is quite the nightmare scenario. And again, the American taxpayer is paying for essentially financing the dark side of the of like 1930s Germany and their dark plans. Well, also I would say also 1930s Japan, because apparently the Japanese also had quite the desire to use Koreans for experimentation, and they had their own let's just say evil underground science and surgery going on. Basically, if you ever listen to the song "Angel of Death" by Slayer, that's kind of what has been financed by our U.S. tax dollars. And I can only laugh because I'm from Cleveland, and that's how I deal with sorrow. So anyways, guys, if someone, that was all sort of all I wanted to talk about. So we have 6 points, then we'll take calls if someone wants to call. They don't have to. We'll go into the questions. But I just wanted to cover that again. We sort of came up with, for this emergency session, kind of came up with 6 points that answer the question, where is America's money going in Ukraine? Number one, apparently it is going to buy the Ukraine weapons, which it then sells to whoever they can sell them to for big money. Oh, and I forgot that the Russians were able to get a few like Western tanks just bought. Like, they didn't destroy them or capture them. They just bought them off of somebody. So that was pretty crazy. That was a good piece of evidence there. At least that's what the Russians claim. So again, who knows? Maybe that could be some sort of media manipulation here. But yeah. So anyways, we have the weapons that are being sent to Ukraine are en masse being sold off to other parties, including the parties that want to attack Israel, when the very type of sort of people who love Israel are also the people who love to finance Kiev. So there's kind of a dark irony to that. We have Zelensky's wife and the diamond buying scandal, which is pretty crazy, buying a lot of diamonds and luxury doodads during the middle of a war. Number three is, but again, if we want to talk about the pot calling the kettle black, I'll put it this way. A lot of the elite in Russia are probably doing the same thing right now. They're just not as famous as Zelensky's wife. I'll put it that way. So, don't want to get into a thing of saying that in Russia, no rich, powerful guy's wife would ever buy luxury items during the middle of a war where Russian soldiers are having to, give it their all and possibly lose their lives. So I'm not going to go that far, guys. So we're interested in the truth and not propaganda here. So that was point number 3. Point number 4, the kickbacks to the Democrats, that the more money you ship overseas to some project, the more you can get in kickbacks from said project. We have the terrible the paying the soldiers who are already dead their salary. So we are financing dead entities, be they human beings or even perhaps non-functioning governmental entities that have already been destroyed. Paying for some hospital to operate that doesn't even exist anymore because it was blown to bits. That kind of logic. And number 6, the dark deeds of 1930s Japan and Germany, which are going on right now en masse on the territory of 1991 Ukraine. Well, of course, not. I should say not anymore. I should say on the territory of 2023 Ukraine, because on the Russian side, we're not seeing too much evidence of anything of the sort. Interesting how that works out, isn't it? So, anyways, let me see. We have no one wants to call in. That makes my life easier. Let's see. Do we have any comments, questions, or anything interesting? None. How can there be like 30 people watching? No, less than 30, 20. How could there be 20 people watching and not one comment? This is crazy. This is so weird. What is going on? Anyways, I can see that people in the chat, regardless, are very, very excited about putting up some anti-Israeli propaganda. I had a feeling there's going to be, unfortunately, guys, remember, for those of you who happen to be of the religious sort, remember you can't gloat over the deaths and suffering of other people. So let's not be gloaty. If you dislike Israel, you shouldn't gloat in their suffering. You should wish that they would change their tune. This usually the way this kind of thing goes. Anyways, so someone just said they got an email from iSpring. Holy crap! Tell Tim directly about it. So someone actually got an answer from iSpring. Amazing. That's real good. For those who don't know, iSpring is willing to hire Westerners to go work for them, so that's really good. That could be your entryway to Russia. Okay, no one wants to talk to me. Amazing. So anyways, guys, I just wanted to real quick come on here and do this sort of emergency live stream about where the money's going. And I think I did that. So the person who gave it to, someone does want to talk. All right. Someone does want to talk. Peter T. Remember, Peter, you have to unmute yourself, I believe, which is a button. It should be at the bottom of your screen. Be you on a computer or a device, a mobile device.
Yeah.
Oh, you're here. Okay, super.
Yes.
Yeah, I hear you.
Hello.
I hear you.
I was just provoked by you saying nobody wants to talk, so I thought I would send you all the best wishes from Denmark.
Oh, thank you. Oh, it's very nice of you, man. No, don't worry about it. You don't have to make mercy calls. If people don't want to talk, they don't have to talk. But anyways, since you're in Denmark, we do not get too much information from Denmark. How is the war and are you guys actually really feeling the effects of this war and the change in economy, or is that all lie and Russian propaganda?
I have to tell you some interesting thing about Denmark, because Denmark is actually, we always like to say Denmark is a little buttercup, where we live a nice life with like we can soak up all the butter we like, and it's like a metaphor for richdom and nice
back in the old days, man, butter used to be expensive. In fact, it's still kind of expensive now, but not like in the olden days. So yeah, I get it.
Yeah, but still in Denmark, we had a lot of dairies products from the farmers, so we have never struggled with some good butters,
No.
And the thing is that even if Germany maybe is in its fourth quarter of recession, we don't have this thing in Denmark.
Oh, okay. So you guys so essentially you guys are looking at the Germans and you're seeing Germany have all these problems and everything for you is more or less fine.
Yeah, actually, you have to. I very much dislike the globalization, and you see, I come from a small town with. I'm 57, and when I was young and kid, every small town in Denmark had like a machinery workshop with like 20 men doing world-class ship machines, or supply a lot of. Small goods to Germany's big factories, and so we were like this metal industry country, and it's just a picture of how this is totally gone. You don't find a city in Denmark, even not big cities, with these machine tool shops. And this is like I want to tell this story about this thing because it shows how poor we become with our our proud craftsmanship traditions.
Yeah.
I could tell the same story about bricklaying and carpentry and etc. etc. So if I should whine about anything, it would be that we lost our craftsmanship pride into this global elite who moved everything. Like you see in US, where all these poor people
Oh yeah.
who suffers from
The thing is Peter here.
yeah.
We're gonna let me let you go here again, because I want to have my chance to talk here. So thank you very much for calling in. But you raise a really good topic, which is something I didn't really plan on talking about today, but it's also very important. Is that so, Peter? We share something. If you had machine shops around your neighborhood there when you were young, and the average Danish man knew how to use them. Compared to today, that is not the case. And I think I was probably one of the very last boys to actually go through what we call shop class, which is essentially like learning how to do stuff out of metal and wood and all that. And it goes back to this, either the problem of globalization, as in if we're going to live in this globalized world and you're from the West, like why bother? Your labor costs too much. You know what I mean? It's like, well, we have China to do that. Why should we teach you how to do that in schools? So there's sort of the globalist explanation of that, of the West is sort of the capital city of globalism, and so there's no point in that. We could also get into sort of the real problem is that the educational system is, let's just put it this way, very, 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 very feminized, and you don't really see, in any sort of discussion of education, you don't see someone come in there who's like, we've got to make the next generation of men tough and hard. Let's go, boys. You don't see that at all, any sort of masculine influence in academia. And I would say, to be honest, most academics that I've ever met, I don't know, I'm always kind of surprised that they can tie their shoes together. Maybe Russia's a bit of an exception. There are some people here with some academic standards who are a bit more grounded in reality, but when it comes to the West, I mean, they're like, they gotta call 911 to get someone to come and screw in a new light bulb for them. So I think there could be a more natural effect of that. As soon as we created this idea of like public schooling, over time it sort of becomes a self-fulfilling, self-feeding logic of we push more and more academia on people, because academia is good, because academics are the ones that determine like what the school system is like. So it's self-feeding. Like, you know what I mean? You don't really get much influence from people who are going to come in and say, being a carpenter's awesome. You know, they're just not there. And I think we're getting into this sort of cycle of, it's like we need everyone to be educated. And when they talk about educated, they generally mean in some sort of humanities or something that's kind of semi-useless. So, yeah, it's a big problem, and it's something that we really need to, and especially here in Russia, we really need to, one, get rid of this talking point that the Soviet education system was the best in the world. F that. I still, the problem is whenever I hear someone say that, they can never explain why. Like, if you ask them, okay, what did education look like back then? What does it look like now? They're just like, it was better back then. That's it. So we got to, number one, get rid of that. Number two, we need to also start thinking about education, maybe more in terms of, like in the West, in theory, was about creating people to join the workforce, but I think it's almost transmitted into something of like creating an entire society where everyone is some kind of really terrible academic. I don't know. But I think we need to really change our attitude about, or at least determine what the hell is the point. Like, what is the point? What do we want out of people after we send them to spend their entire childhood studying? Like, what do we want to create? And I think we need to create men who know how to build things and fix things and generally do a lot of stuff on their own. I think self-sufficiency should become part of the educational system. In fact, a big part of it, as should apprenticeships. Because remember, in the old days, people learned by apprenticeships, and apprenticeships teach you a lot much faster than any sort of class. So, ironically, I think we need to remove the academicness from academics. If that makes sense, that might sound like blasphemy to some people, but it sounds like a fantastic idea to me. So, very interesting topic. And Peter, I, for the most part, in fact, for a large part, completely agree with you. We need to teach people how to do stuff rather than me having to sort of learn the stuff a bit on the fly after high school is over. So, anyways, okay, I'm starting to get some messages from other projects. So anyways, guys, let's see. Did anyone no comments? All right. So today was an easy day. One call, no comments. Again, we talked about where the money is coming from, and I hope the person who made that big fat donation is very satisfied. Remember, if you go on my Boosty and you do the 5,000 ruble level, which is for like a consultation about immigration, or you get to pick the topic of a live stream, I will, for 5,000 rubles, do a live stream on the topic of your choosing. This person wanted me to do it immediately, so that's why we're a little impromptu and during the daytime, but if you want to give me time, I can do more research. So anyways, guys, it was great talking to you. I'm going to hit the road here. All the best. Daytime live streams are weird. Yes, they are.